Shut up and sit down.
Hello and welcome again to another Blackdog podcast video review. I'm Lee, nice to meet you again, and this week I couldn't decide what film to do, so I went onto the Blackdog Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Blackdog podcast, and I asked them out there what they would like me to watch, and by a long margin it was Star Wars Rogue One. So here I am. I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, but hey, everyone else is doing reviews, might as well be me as well. So, what is Star Wars Rogue One, you might ask, if you'd been living in a bunker somewhere? Well, Star Wars Rogue One is the first of the anthology movies, which is a spin-off that Disney's basically using to pay the $3.5 billion that they spent trying to buy Lucasfilm. Set just before Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, it effectively exists within the crawl of New Hope, telling the story of the characters trying to grab hold of the plans to the Death Star. How do they get them? How do they get them to the Rebels? How does everyone figure it out in the first place? And what leads to the beginning of Star Wars A New Hope. The film story centres around Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, the daughter of Mads Mikkelsen's Galen Erso, who happens to be one of the scientists working on the Death Star project. And when he is basically drafted back into the project by evil director Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, who has an absolutely blinding line of eye rolls throughout the whole film. He's just doing this. The rebels pull in Felicity Jones's character to see if she can find her father and therefore put a stop to the project. She's accompanied by Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, who starts off as a fairly good character because he seems to be morally ambiguous, and by the end of it, I literally had to look his name up 5 minutes before this review because I couldn't remember him. And then he and Felicity are also joined by Cassian's, I forgot his name again, Cassian's sidekick, K2SO, played by Alan Tudyk, who is kind of like a sociopathic C-3PO, a reprogrammed Imperial droid. Along the course of their mission, they basically pick up various members of the Dirty Dozen in space, which is essentially what this film is. We have Raz Ahmed as Bodhi Rook, who's an Imperial pilot who's dropped the information to the rebellion in the first place. Donnie Yen as Sharut, who is like a force-sensitive blind monk, kind of a warrior monk, and then his friend Baze, played by Yang Wen. Essentially, it is the Dirty Dozen in space. You get a bunch of heroes pulled together for a common cause who would normally all been thrown in jail years ago. It's all directed with a kind of a real fanboy eye by Gareth Edwards, who directed Monsters, which is one of my favourite films of his, and Godzilla, which is one of my least favourite films of his. If you're going to make a film called Godzilla, put Godzilla in it. Don't keep hiding him behind a door, but that's another story. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I have been for a very, very long time. And for me, one of the biggest disappointments with the prequels was always the fact that it looked shiny, new, the designs were all super futuristic by comparison to New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And so they never really felt part of the universe, even though we had Jedi and we had Sith and we have, droids and R2-D2 and all that kind of thing. Whereas Rogue One seems to understand that part of Star Wars' charm is the fact that it has this very distinctive look and a very distinctive style. And Gareth Edwards, like I say, he's made the ultimate fan film. He's got $200 million and he's going to make a film that looks exactly like it should do if it was just before Star Wars A New Hope. Now, that's great. That's lovely. What he doesn't have is a script that is wholly successful. Now, you have all the characters coming together, and that's fine. The nature of the way they come together, though, is a bit all over the place, and there's so many characters to get together, and so quickly, that essentially the film's pacing is all over the place. At one point, at the beginning, you're kind of like, right, okay, this is going along a fair old clip. And then Cassian and Jin and K2SO have to go to the planet of Jeddah. And that's, to find and rendezvous with Bodhi, the Imperial spy. And then the film just goes, stop. And what it does is it takes this weird detour to Forrest Whitaker's character, who you may have seen in the trailer. In trailer 1 has hair, and in trailer 2 doesn't have hair, and then in trailer 3 he kind of had a robotic bit that got bolted on. He got chopped and changed around in all the reshoots. But what he's a character called Saul Guerra, and he's kind of like the far right of the rebellion. He's extreme rebellion. But the problem is he kind of tipped over into paranoia and distrusts everyone. And so that could have been really interesting, giving a moral grey area to the rebellion that we hadn't previously seen. But what he ends up doing is he ends up just being a nutter in a cave, doing not an awful lot, and then having a piece of really sort of primo grade sort of stick it to the Empire information land in his lap, and then go, I don't believe you. I don't believe anyone. I don't know. Have you all come to kill me? Oh. He and his band of the People's Front of Jeddah, that's how it feels. It feels like Life of Brian. They all just sit in a cave and just talk. If you took all of his stuff out, 20 minutes would have gone and nothing would have changed. Not a single solitary jot. At the beginning of his scenes, we know that they're going to meet Bodhi. At the end of those scenes, they are talking to Bodhi. So all we get is basically Forrest Whitaker wandering around in a cave, looking confused and sounding even more confused. If he was one of your elderly parents or grandparents, you would have put him in a home the way this guy was talking. But the problem is, what it does is, because it's centre in the film, it completely slows the film to a complete and utter dead stop. There is no point to it, and so you kind of go, oh, here we go. We're going for an adventure. How are we going to find Mads Mikkelsen? Are we going to stop the Death Star? Well, we know that, but there's real pace to it, and then all of a sudden it just goes dumph. Let's watch this man overact in a cave. Yep, he's still nuts. Oh, tentacle porn. After that, the film sort of remembers what it's got to do, and then it kicks into high gear, and then it becomes, archetypal Star Wars. Big battles, lots of people running about, lots of shouting, quick, witty one-liners, lots of action, bang, 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 come to the conclusion, and a big almighty space battle. Probably one of the best in Star Wars history, I would say, which leads itself to a moment which I won't spoil for you, but you probably know it anyway. But the point is, it leads to a moment that really is the now you can leave the cinema happy moment. It's a moment which kind of for Star Wars fans will make you all go, yay, it's worth the 15 quid for the popcorn I paid. Problem is that those last 15-20 minutes are so good that it throws into stark relief precisely how slow the middle act is, and then how weak in character construction the first act is. So by the time you get to the end, you sort of come away thinking, yeah, I've seen a great film, I've had great time, but it's a bit like having a really terrible meal. You have a terrible first course, well, an okay first course, terrible main, but then the pudding comes out and it's fucking wicked, and you're like, wow, that was a great meal. I loved that pudding. And that's exactly what Rogue One is. It's kind of a nothing movie until the last 25 minutes, and at which point it gives you so much good stuff, so much stuff thrown in your face. And it's interesting to note that the assistant director on this was John Knoll, who happens to be one of the senior head honchos at ILM. So you can tell straight away that these are the bits he's done. He's just gone, well, throw all the money at the graphics. You get this spectacular space battle. It's fantastic. But that's the thing. It feels like a bit of a placebo. It's like a kind of band-aid on the film. You kind of come away thinking, I've seen a great film. But like Phantom Menace, and I'm loath to say that because it's much better than Phantom Menace, but like Phantom Menace, people came out of the Phantom Menace going, yeah, I love that Jedi fight at the end. The lightsaber battle. Wow, Darth Maul was so cool. Yeah, he was. But you sat through 2 hours to get to 7.5 minutes of a fight. That's Rogue One all over again, except not quite as leaden as Phantom Menace. I mean, overall, I would say if you're a Star Wars fan, there's a lot to love here. There's a lot to like. The ending, as I say, will wipe away any plot hole memories or any issues you have. It touches all the nostalgia parts for all those people who have been moaning for the last 25, 30 years that, they've been making Star Wars for kids. Yeah, suddenly you get all those people coming back and going, actually, no, they made it for me. It's for the 1977 crowd. Woo, represent. You may have noticed I've not mentioned anything about the characters. That's because primarily there are no characters. Rogue One almost feels like it could have been 3 films. And you could have made bringing the characters together for the first one, much like Star Wars, and then the second one would have been we're on the run from the Empire, and then the third film, get the Death Star plans, here we go. I won't go into the CGI characters. I'm sure you've seen about 1,000 reviews of various characters who I won't spoil. Overall, when looked back on, I think that this film will be one of those films where you sit there and go, actually, it was okay, but only okay because of the ending. So for that, I'm gonna give it a B. It's a good film. It is a good film, but it's flawed and quite heavily so in some places. Right. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do subscribe and like and share and all that sort of stuff that goes on in this bit at the bottom of the YouTube page again, and do join us on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Blackdog podcast, or join us on the actual podcast, that thing. It's on iTunes. You can find, just search for the Blackdog podcast, or you can listen to some old episodes here on YouTube in the Blackdog podcast archive playlist, which again is probably down here somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you again soon. Cheers.